She got stopped at the gate of the shooting range because of her faded jacket and an old rifle that looked like it came straight out of a museum. VIP lanes don't allow the lost and confused. The receptionist Mason Lee said, eyes skimming her like she was a refugee. One spoiled kid sneered, "They letting in mops and maintenance now." Riley Carter said nothing. She just pulled out her VIP pass and walked forward through the laughter, through the mockery, until 10 perfect shots shut them all the hell up. Hawthorne Elite Range was a temple of precision, its glass and steel facade gleaming under the California sun like a polished bullet. Inside, the air was sharp with gunpowder and privilege. Every lane a showcase for the ultra-wealthy, high-ranking military officers and athletic prodigies. Black marble floors reflected LED lights, and digital scoreboards glowed with names that carried power. Children of senators, Olympians, tech titans. Membership here wasn't just a fee, it was a bloodline costing more than most people's mortgages. The walls were adorned with gold-framed photos of world champions, their eyes as cold as their aim. Outside, a velvet rope separated the elite from the unworthy. And today, Riley Carter stood on the wrong side. Her faded olive jacket and scuffed jeans were a blasphemy against the tailored tactical gear streaming past. At 23, Riley was a quiet force, her beauty raw and unadorned. Her auburn hair was pulled into a loose braid, strands glinting like embers in the sunlight. Her hazel eyes, sharp and unflinching, held a depth that could stop a heart. She carried an old M1 Garand rifle, its woodstock worn smooth by decades slung over her shoulder. Like a piece of history, her father, Colonel Samuel Carter, had been a legendary sniper, a shadow who'd ended conflicts with a single shot, and he'd raised her on backwoods ranges, teaching her to breathe with the trigger. After his death, Riley had promised to honor his legacy, but the crowd saw only a nobody with a thrift store aesthetic. Her presence an insult to their exclusivity. The receptionist, Mason Lee, a man with a slick haircut and a sneer like a blade, blocked Riley's path at the gate. "This isn't a range for ordinary people," he said, his voice dripping contempt loud enough to turn heads. "VIP lanes are for members, not whatever you are." He gestured at her rifle, his eyes raking her faded jacket. A kid in a $4,000 tracksuit, Logan Grant, son of a hedge fund king, leaned against a pillar, grinning. "They letting in mops and maintenance now," he called, sparking chuckles from the group behind him. Riley's fingers brushed her VIP pass, a worn card from her father's old CO earned through blood and loyalty. She held it out, her voice steady. "I'm a guest," Mason Lee's smirk faltered as the scanner beeped green, but he stepped past it, muttering, "This is a mistake." The crowd parted their laughter, a gauntlet, as Riley walked inside. As Riley walked through the lounge, the Rangers' live stream feed turned into a digital gallows. Phones glowed, members posting in real time their captions. A public execution. Hat welfare shooter. One read, zooming in on her scuffed boots. "She's a joke," another posted, shared by a congressman's son. Brooke Adams stood, her voice loud enough for the live stream to catch. "Look at her thinking she can shoot with us," she mocked, gesturing at Riley's jacket. "This is Hawthorne, not a salvage yard." The crowd roared their laughter, a weapon comments flooding. "Kick her out, fraud," a boy shouted. "Bet she stole that pass from the trash." Riley's hands stayed steady, her hazel eyes fixed forward, but her mother's face on the live stream, pale and pained, showed the weight of each word. The audience's rage surged their fury at this coordinated cruelty, a fire ready to burst. The range's interior was a cathedral of competition, its lanes stretching 50 meters under a soaring ceiling. Digital screens tracked every shot, and the low hum of ventilation mixed with the crack of gunfire. Members lounged in leather chairs, sipping $20 lattes, their rifles gleaming with custom engravings. Riley's jacket drew stares like a crack in a mirror. A trust fund kid, Aiden Cross, sprawled in a chair, his $12,000 rifle propped up beside him. "Even cleaning staff gets access now, huh?" He snorted, his voice carrying across the lounge. His clique, a pack of prep school heirs, laughed, their eyes slicing Riley's jeans. "What's she gonna do, polish the targets?" one quipped, tossing a spent casing at her feet. Riley stepped over it, her face serene, her silence a shield against their venom. A range instructor, Professor Dana Mills, stepped forward from the coaching staff, her tailored blazer a stark contrast to Riley's faded jacket. "This is highly irregular." She said, her voice dripping with false pity, loud enough for the lounge to hear. Hawthorne is for trained professionals, not charity cases with museum pieces. She gestured at Riley's rifle, her diamond earrings glinting. Your presence here undermines our standards. Perhaps a community range would suit you better. The crowd murmured approval, some clapping their elitism a wall around Riley. Leave now and we'll forget this embarrassment. Professor Mills added her words a deliberate cut. Riley's braids swayed as she adjusted her rifle, her hazel eyes flickering with buried resolve, but her face remained serene. Her mother's hands clenched on the live stream, the instructor's condescension, a betrayal of Riley's right to be there. The audience's anger boiled their outrage at this authority-driven attack, a burning wound in the VIP lane. Brooke Adams, a sharpshooter with 6,000 custom sniper optics and a modeling contract, adjusted her scope, her blonde hair cascading in perfect waves. She glanced at Riley, her lip curling. This is a training ground, not some low-budget war movie cosplay, she said, her voice sharp enough to cut glass amplified by the live stream. Mic overhead. The range's social media feed buzzed, comments flooding. Who's this loser? Get her out. The head coach, Colonel William Ford, a grizzled ex-Marine with a chest full of medals, stood nearby, his irritation plain. Are you sure you even know which end of the rifle you're supposed to hold? He barked, his tone dripping with disdain. Riley met his gaze, her hazel eyes unwavering. I'll figure it out, she said softly, her words a quiet vow. The crowd snickered, their phones out, poised for her failure. The billionaire heir, Chase Bennett, was the range's golden boy, a 25-year-old with dark curls, a chiseled jaw, and eyes that could charm or burn. His black tactical gear was tailored to perfection, and his custom rifle, a $60,000 work of art, gleamed like a predator. He had just fired around 99, 98, 97, his scores flashing on the digital board to roars of approval. He turned, spotting Riley, and his grin was a weapon. If you beat me, I'll leave immediately, he said, his voice smooth and mocking, loud enough for the live stream. But if I win, you're a gone janitor. The crowd erupted their laughter, a tidal wave. Chase leaned closer, his breath warm. No pressure, sweetheart. Riley didn't flinch. She nodded once, her silence louder than their jeers. The live stream audience seethed their hearts with Riley urging her to shatter their arrogance. The mockery didn't let up as Riley set up at lane 8. Logan Grant sauntered over his tracksuit, screaming wealth. That rifle's a fossil, he sneered, his voice carrying to the live stream. Bet it falls apart before you fire. He flicked a coffee stirrer at her feet, grinning. Pick it up, maintenance girl. The crowd laughed, their phones, recording captions forming #HatRangeTrash. Brooke adjusted her optics, her voice cutting. You're embarrassing yourself, hun. Go home before you shoot your foot off. Coach Ford stepped closer, his clipboard raised like a gavel. This is an elite facility, he said, his tone patronizing. We don't have time for amateurs with relics. Riley's hands moved with quiet precision, loading her rifle, her face a mask of calm. Her mother's face, watching the live stream from a hospital bed, crumpled with each insult, a wound to her daughter's pride. The range's social media feed was a battlefield, posts piling on, hey scrapyard shooter. One read showing a close-up of Riley's faded jeans. She's a fake, another commented, shared by a politician's daughter. In the lounge, Aiden Cross stood, his voice booming. Why is she even here? This is our range, not a soup kitchen shoot. The crowd cheered, their elitism a fortress around Riley. A girl in a designer jacket, Zoe Palmer, tossed a crumpled score sheet at Riley's feet, calling, Clean that up, janitor. The paper skidded across the floor, grazing her boots. But Riley didn't pause. Her braids swayed as she checked her rifle, her hazel eyes locked on the target, 50 meters out. The audience's rage burned their fury at the mob's cruelty, a fire ready to explode. The insults grew sharper as Riley stood at the lane. A retired general, now a range consultant, leaned toward Coach Ford, his voice loud enough for the live stream. This is what happens when you let scholarships in, he muttered, gesturing at Riley. No breathing, no skill. The crowd murmured agreement, their phones flashing, capturing Riley's stillness. Brooke stood, her optics glinting, and called out, You're a walking embarrassment, girl. Leave before you make us all look bad. Logan Grant added, Bet she's never even fired a gun, probably stole that pass. The laughter swelled, a vicious chorus, each word a stone hurled at Riley's dignity. Her fingers brushed her rifle, a faint tremor, the only sign of tension. But her face remained serene, her silence a wall against their scorn. Chase Bennett took his turn first. His movement smooth, his rifle an extension of his will. The digital board flashed 1099, 10, 10, near perfect, his grouping tight as a fist. The crowd roared, clapping their smirks, aimed at Riley. Good luck, thrift store, Chase called, his grin cocky, his eyes daring her to crumble. The live stream comments surged, she's toast. No way she tops that. Riley stepped to the line, her M1 Garand steady in her hands. The crowd hushed their phones, raised ready for her humiliation. She exhaled, her body still, her focus a laser. 50 meters out, a tiny red dot centered among hundreds of rings. The audience held their breath, their anger at her treatment, a pulse in their veins. Shot 110. The board chimed a soft ping that sliced the silence. Murmurs rippled, lucky shot. Aiden Cross scoffed, crossing his arms. Riley didn't blink. Shot 210. The ping came again, sharper now. Brooke Adams' optics slipped. Her smirk faded. Shot 310. The range's congratulatory melody played a rare chime for 3 perfect shots in a row. The crowd froze, their laughter dying. Beginner's luck, Logan Grant muttered, but his voice cracked. Riley's face remained calm. Her hazel eyes locked on the target. The live stream audience leaned closer, their hearts pounding, sensing a storm brewing. Shot 410. The melody played again, louder, insistent. Coach Ford's clipboard trembled in his hands. Shot 510. A headset clattered to the floor, dropped by a stunned athlete. Shot a sack 10. The range was a graveyard, every eye on Riley, her faded jacket a beacon under the lights. Chase Bennett's grin was gone, his jaw tightened, his eyes narrowing. The live stream exploded. Who is this girl? This is insane. Riley's braids swayed as she adjusted her grip, her movements precise, almost sacred. The audience's anger turned to awe, their faith in her growing with each shot. Codway lower the 10. The melody was a hymn now echoing off the steel walls. Tyler Cross's face paled, his bravado crumbling. Shot 810. Brooke ripped off her optics, her hands shaking. Shot 910. The crowd was silent, their phones lowered their mockery, a distant memory. Shot 10. Perfect center, overlapping the first bullet, not a millimeter off. The board flashed a new record. 100. The melody played one final time, triumphant, as the system announced, facility record broken. Riley lowered her rifle, her breath steady, her hazel eyes sweeping the room. The audience roared, their hearts soaring, her triumph a blaze that burned away their scorn. She turned calm, dead as steady, and spoke, her voice soft but piercing. My father taught me to shoot when I was 6. She said, her words cutting through the silence like a blade. He was the #1 sniper in his unit while you were still learning how to double-click a mouse. The crowd parted, their heads bowed their earlier cruelty, a weight they couldn't shake. Coach William Ford, the ex-Marine, rose from his chair, his eyes shining with respect. He began to clap, slow and deliberate, the sound echoing in the stillness. One by one, others joined the applause, swelling a tide of reckoning. Chase Bennett stood frozen, his mouth twitching, his heart stumbling as he saw her smile, just a flicker, but enough to unravel him. Chase stood rooted, his once cocky grin replaced by a flush of shame, as Riley's perfect 100-100 glowed on the board. His heart tripped over itself. I was an idiot, he said, his voice cracking loud enough for the live stream to catch. You're not just better, you're untouchable. The crowd's silence was heavy, their earlier jeers now a collective wound. Chase's eyes, once sharp with arrogance, softened, tracing Riley's calm poise, her faded jacket now a badge of honor. The live stream comments shifted. He's done. She's a queen. Coach Ford nodded, his voice booming. Mr. Bennett, your scores are no longer the standard step essayed. Chase's shoulders slumped, but his gaze lingered on Riley, her smile a quiet fire that lit something new in him. The audience cheered, their hearts soaring, as Chase's fall and Riley's rise intertwined her triumph, a blade that cut through his pride. Chase's face burned, his 10s and 99s now a public humiliation. He had mocked her, challenged her, and lost in front of everyone. The live stream captured his pale shock comments flooding in. She destroyed him. Riley legend. Chase stepped forward, his voice low, almost reverent. I was wrong, he said, his eyes searching hers. You're incredible. Riley nodded, her smile faint but warm, a spark that caught him off guard. The crowd watched their silence a canvas for her victory. Coach William Ford approached, his voice gruff but proud. "That was the finest shooting I've seen in 40 years, he said. "Your father's legacy lives in you." Riley's eyes softened. Her promise kept her mission complete. The range's Director General, Victor Shaw, stepped forward, his silver hair catching the LED lights, his voice resonant across the lanes. "Riley Carter has redefined excellence." He declared, his words broadcast to the live stream. "Her record of 100 and 100 is now the benchmark for Hawthorne." He turned to the staff, his gaze stern. "Those who mocked her masonly, Professor Dana Mills, face suspension pending review. Standards here are about skill, not status." The crowd gasped, the guilty shrinking, their arrogance crumbling. General Shaw raised a hand, unveiling a digital plaque on the screen. "Riley Carter, record holder." Riley stood tall, her smile a quiet glow catching Chase Bennett's eye again, his heart racing at her grace. The live stream audience roared their applause, echoing online. Riley Carter trended globally, a symbol of truth, resilience, and skill. The range's hierarchy crumbled in that moment. Logan Grant slunk to the lounge, his tracksuit no shield against the whispers. She owned him. Brooke Adams packed her gear, her modeling contract suddenly fragile, her arrogance a memory. Aiden Cross's boast died in his throat, his rifle untouched, his click avoiding his gaze. Zoe Palmer, the score sheet tosser, slipped out her designer jacket, no armor against the shame. Even the retired general who mocked scholarships stood, his face red, and muttered a broken apology. The range's elite were humbled, their exclusivity shattered by a girl with a faded rifle. Later, as the crowd thinned, Chase approached Riley, his usual swagger gone, replaced by a quiet intensity. "I don't deserve your time," he said, his voice low, his eyes locked on her smile, that faint, radiant curve that had undone him. "But I'd be a fool not to try. You're not just a shooter, you're a force." The crowd watched, their silence a canvas for his vulnerability. The live stream captured every word. "He's in love." Riley's hazel eyes met his, her smile deepening, a spark that lit his world. "Coffee's a start," she said, her voice soft but warm, a bridge between them. The range's staff paused, their respect for Riley now, given her record, a new North Star. Chase's heart raced, her smile marking the moment he had truly fallen. The audience's hearts soared, their satisfaction complete as Riley's triumph sparked something even greater: love. Mott Thangsal, Riley and Chase were dating, their bond forged in the crucible of that unforgettable day. Chase, once a prince of privilege, learned to see the world through Riley's eyes. Strength earned, not bought. Ba Thangsal, he proposed the ring, simple but perfect, just like her. They married in a quiet ceremony, the range's plaque now forever reading, "Riley Carter, record holder 100. Hawthorne Elite Range was no longer just for the elite. It was hers, reshaped by a girl in faded jeans who had silenced them all with 10 perfect shots. Riley Carter didn't need their praise. She was the bullet that hit the mark.